This is already going better than last time. Okay, so it says we're live. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Norwich Writers Circle Christmas live stream, where our members have put together some Christmas and winter themed stories to share with you. My name is Kathy and I am the Vice Chair. There are we. So let's start first with Festival by Simon Bell.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I'm Simon Bell, and this story festival, just to set it in its place, it's one of the mindful stories. You see behind me the letters MIST, Mindful Stories. It was a book I published in 2020, so only a year ago now, and it contains a different approach to mindfulness. Effectively, there are 100 stories, and Festival is one of them. And each one is intended to work, if you like, subliminally on various ideas and concepts that we already have. The stories are intended to provoke, but they're also intended to encourage a mindful approach to problem solving and thinking. So I'm going to read it to you. Normally, when I read these stories live, I like people to approach them in a kind of closed-eye way, allowing the story to wash through, not trying to hold on to it, but just letting the ideas within it work through as well. So have a think as you blank your mind and consider what the story's about. So this is story 95 of the 100 stories and the mindful stories. Festival. The room is empty. The oak floorboards have a dull shine, the finish spoiled by dusty footprints and the sad circular stains of glasses consumed. A yet to be attended to feel. The wisps of laughter hang in the air. She was alone. She had trouble with her back and her hips, and even so she had managed to manhandle the rickety chair back into the room. It had been thoughtfully put away by one of her guests, but she needed it one more time. Settling carefully onto the chair, she looked at the room as if from many places. The festival was always held in this room, and the room knew the story too well. A large room, a capable room, an old room, a room with memories. From one place, she can see several very old people and a young couple. They all share in different ways in the pleasures of the season. Gifts long planned or thoughtlessly purchased are given. Musty smells of old clothes and long lives lived fill the background, and the sleep which follows plenty is replete with deep breathing and gentle snoring. If she switches her gaze to another place, she sees a young couple and their many friends sliding effortlessly into the limitless haze of potent virile youth. They are accompanied by the smells of babies, bodies, soaps, and excrement. Somehow the smell does not worry anyone. No appetite is lost, and no joy seems impossible. Echoes of unheard things bring her back to herself. Her chair creaks as she shifts her slight weight. She needs to remember. She needs to recall. The afternoon light slants lantern-like through the high window and will soon be gone, and she must go with it. From the next place, she sees that the young couple are older and that the other young couples are no longer here. One or two friends gather with some older people. The children are absorbed in their growing understanding of the mechanics behind the festival and the beginnings of their own interpretation, which will only much, much later fully form. There will follow festivals in which she will take no part, from which even her ghost will be excluded. The unheard stumble of old invisible feet on the hard wooden floor. The point of view is renewed, but now the couple are older, and only the children, grown willful and bored, briefly remain. Other duties and pleasures press on the season. Finally, in her last vision, there is only one, the room prepared as best she could, a visitor or two, drawn by the pity life feels for life all but done. Now the room is truly empty. The floorboards have a dull shine, the finish spoiled by dusty footprints, and the sad circular stains of glasses consumed, and never to be attended to feel. The wisps of laughter still hang in the air.
That was fantastic. Thank you very much, Simon. It was a very thought-provoking story. So bear with me while I just admit Lorna. I hopefully got my message. And just to let everyone know, we do have someone, Catherine Hollingworth, who is having a story read, is watching this live stream as we go. So we already have one person watching. So that's fantastic. So our next story is The Swap by Jenny Laws. So Jenny, if you want to take the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so this is called The Swap. The large study was dimly lit by candles, sporadically placed around the room, and a large open fire. The fireplace was the centerpiece of the room. Everything faced it, the desk, the overstuffed chairs nestled around it, and it was gloriously decorated with garlands of ivy entwined with fir branches. Clusters of pine cones, dried orange slices, and cinnamon sticks gave off a soothing smell as they were warmed in the heat. The room would normally be lit much brighter, otherwise Nicholas would never be able to read the letters that were sent to him. Today he sat in one of the chairs near the fireplace, shooting fierce looks at the ever-growing pile of envelopes that had been left on his desk. The sharp rap on the door broke him out of his daydream that the letters would spontaneously burst into flames. He heard a slight creak as it opened. "He's here, darling. Are you ready?" He nodded. "Hello, Nicholas," came a deep voice. "Hello, Crampy. Come on in and sit down." Nicholas looked up at his twin. His face was thinner than he remembered, and his skin greyer, the opposite to him with his round face and ruddy red cheeks. "You know I hate that nickname, brother. Call me Krampus." Nicholas perked up a bit at annoying his brother. Then the feeling disappeared, and in its place was guilt. What had he become? Krampus sat in the chair opposite Nicholas, settling his skeletal figure into it. The look of joy was hard to miss. "Well, this is nice, but why am I here? And what has happened to all your jolliness? This room would easily fit in at my place." Krampus took a moment to look around. "You're not thinking about joining the dark side, are you?" Krampus laughed, although there wasn't any sound, just the motion of an open mouth, eyes squeezed shut, and his chest rising up and down quickly. Nicholas almost expected dust to puff out of his mouth. "Wait, is that what you're considering, Nicholas?" Krampus leaned over in his chair to see the frustration on his brother's face. "These children," Nicholas burst out. "They send me letters asking for video games, the latest video consoles, electric bikes, watches, mobile phones. It's ridiculous. I employ toy-making elves, not electronics specialists. When did children stop wanting wooden toys?" "Maybe around the 1950s, offered Krampus. Nicholas frowned. They expect too much. When did this happen? When did they forget about giving and not receiving? Krampus pushed his fingertips together. It wasn't often he got to shed some light on his brother's activities. You did this, Nicholas. Krampus paused. Your clones encourage children to tell them what they want, and parents encourage their children to write their heart's desires in a letter to you. Nowhere does it say, you might not get this, or you've got a budget. You've made them greedy. You've made them believe in endless possibilities. Nicholas opened his mouth and held up his finger to argue, then closed it and lowered his hand. It was assumed, he whispered. The brothers sat in silence, both lost in thought. So you want to give me more names this year? Asked Krampus. Nicholas didn't answer, instead tipped his head to one side. Krampus suddenly understood what his brother couldn't say. You want to swap roles? Nicholas nodded. Although I don't really like the taste of human flesh, even soft, young flesh. Krampus laughed again. Oh, brother, I haven't eaten children in centuries. I found it brought nothing but sadness to the families. No one learnt a lesson. Now we torment them and change their behaviour. Nicholas thought for a moment, then nodded. I can do that. But how is your shape shifting? The most you've changed is when your outfit went from green to red. I've turned into a fur-covered beast with horns, a tail, and a forked tongue. Krampus opened his mouth and out slithered a long black tongue slick with saliva and a fork at the end. He flicked it at Nicholas before pulling it back into his mouth with a grin. Maybe I can just grub you up and wear some makeup? You, on the other hand, will need to clean up and put on a bit of weight. No one will believe you're me. Before his eyes, Krampus transformed into the perfect replica of Nicholas, then shrunk back to his old self. Well, Nicholas paused. You'll need to work on your hose and your jolly smile. You'll need to work on your torture. It won't mean anything if you get cold feet midway through. My elves are experts and can help you with that. Also, any illusions you need, you just let them know. A big smile cracked Krampus's face. I'm excited about finally getting to drive the sleigh. Wait, why are you driving the sleigh? How am I getting around? Saint Nick rides the sleigh. Krampus uses the underground tunnels. Krampus suddenly had a thought. Do you think you would make more of an impact if you stayed looking like yourself? Picture the scene. The kid is woken up by Santa. He's excited until Santa yells at him for being selfish and greedy. The kid is upset, might need some therapy, but gets the message. What do you think? Nicholas nodded. It was definitely a good point. Nobody wanted to disappoint Santa. Do they always leave you mince pies? Wondered Krampus aloud, his mind flicking to the benefits of being the big man in red. Mostly. Sometimes cookies, sometimes milk. Krampus grimaced. I'll bring those little evil raisin pies back for you. I can't bear them. Nicholas laughed. This time it came from his stomach. The brothers talked long into the night discussing their plan. Krampus shared tried and tested tortures he'd perfected over the years, and Nicholas explained how to get down the chimneys without getting dirty and what to do if the reindeer refused to run. This Christmas would be like no other. The end.
Fantastic. Love it, Jenny. Just imagine them sitting having that conversation.
Thank you.
Perfect. So what story have we got next? So our next one is a drabble by Simon Clark. So it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Thanks, Kathy. So a drabble is a 100-word story, and it's a favourite form of mine. I quite like the challenge of writing a story with just 100 words. And this one, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, is being published by Black Hair Press, which is an Australian publisher, on their website as part of their Dark Moments series. So that should appear in the next few days there. Anyway, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Christmas tomorrow. We need to make space for the family. They had planned to move to Australia. I blamed our son. Mary blamed the daughter-in-law. We would never see the grandchildren again. It wasn't fair. We'd be just another lonely, miserable old couple, despite all our years of help and support. It's funny how if you think about something long enough, anything is possible. So we prepared. Went on an adult education course, taxidermy for the family. Anyway, I think we should get them out early this year, so they're sitting around the table when we get up tomorrow.
Very good. I like it. I'm actually a fan of drabbles as well. They're great fun because drabbles have to be exactly 100 words as well. So getting it to that exact word count is quite difficult, but also quite fun. So the next story is Christmas Dinner at Christie's by Marcel Andrews, who unfortunately couldn't make it. So I shall be reading that one out. Let me just find it. Okay. So, Christmas Dinner at Christine's. A red-coloured, festive-themed tablecloth covered the dining table. Posh wine glasses sparkled from the reflections of 2 lighted candles sitting at the end of each table. Tinsel wrapped around the base of each holder. Festive coasters and placemats, set cutlery, red, green and tartan napkins and Christmas crackers were laid out at each guest's place. The aroma of cooked roast turkey dinner wafted around the whole house. In the lounge, the gas fire was lit and coloured lights softly glowed from the Christmas tree, giving a warm, cosy feel to its occupants sitting within. Christine was glad that the Christmas roast meal was finally ready for dishing out. This year, she was serving for 8 people, reminding her of days gone by before her divorce, when large gatherings such as these were a more common occurrence. But that was years ago, and since Simon's departure, there had been fewer at the table on Christmas Day. Graham and Carol, her parents, had arrived earlier that morning. Her mother, despite her age, had been a godsend help with the cooking and preparations. Christine had expected more help from her daughter, Layla, but she had arrived late, having spent the night at her boyfriend Josh's flat. The pair had been a couple for over a year, and more recently, Layla was spending more nights at his than she was at home. Christine didn't mind. They were both young adults and still had their whole lives ahead of them. She liked Josh, even though he was 8 years older than her daughter. He was a young man with a future in her eyes. Her other child, her son Aaron, sat comfortably in the lounge with the rest of the family guests watching festive programs on TV. He stayed quiet despite the company around him. He was quiet by nature anyway. His future didn't seem as bright as his elder sister's. His job, working as a shelf stacker in a store, didn't seem as if it would take him anywhere. And he had no relationships going either. But Christine felt that time was on Aaron's side. Like his sister, he was still young. To make this year's festive get-together a large family affair, Christine had invited her brother Paul and his partner. He, like her, had also endured a divorce 5 years ago, having been married for 16 years. It had been painful for him having to leave everything behind, including his 2 children, but now he was in a new relationship. Emma had met him at his local pub on a karaoke night 18 months ago, and, after a passionate beginning, she had soon moved in. Christine couldn't warm to her, neither could Layla nor Carol. Call it women's intuition, but there was something about Emma that none of them felt entirely comfortable with. It was known that she had, in her past, led somewhat of a carefree, promiscuous lifestyle, and that worried them all, if nothing else for Paul's sake. But it was Paul's life, and it was his choice to be made. From the steaming kitchen, Christine called out to her family to sit at the table. She was ready to start dishing out. Everyone obliged, and within moments, steaming platefuls of roast Christmas dinners were placed in front of each family guest. Crackers were pulled and paper crowns were placed upon most heads. Glasses were raised to wish each other a Merry Christmas, and the family meal began. It was less than 5 minutes into the meal that the family small talk was interrupted by Layla. "Me and Josh are getting engaged," she announced. "I'll be moving in with him on a permanent basis," she told her mother. Christine was overjoyed and immediately hugged and kissed both Layla and Josh. She was followed by Carol and Graham, and congratulation was said from all around the table. When the hugs, kisses, and congratulations had died down, Paul's partner Emma decided to make an announcement of her own. "While we're making announcements," she said, "I would like to announce that I'm expecting a baby in the early summer. You're all the first to hear the news." Surprise, Christine immediately said, "Oh, wow," while Layla and Josh said, "Congratulations." Everyone else instinctively looked at Paul to see his reaction. He looked at her, straight-faced but with a serious look. "Well," she said, "aren't you going to say something? Aren't you happy? You're going to be a father." "Well," Paul said after a momentary pause, "I'm more confused. Confused because I had a vasectomy a year before my marriage ended. And now you're telling me you're pregnant?" The colour instantly drained from Emma's face. "You can't have done. You never said anything to me about it." "Well, I'm telling you now." "There must be a mistake. The baby's yours." "Is it? The vasectomy seemed to work okay for the rest of my marriage. My ex-wife never got pregnant after I had it done." "The baby's yours," she repeated. "It is. It's yours." "Is it? We'll talk about this later, alone," said Paul, his face staying expressionless. A very uncomfortable silence at the table was followed by a very uncomfortable and quiet meal afterwards. The subject was only discussed by the family after Paul and Emma had left, which was soon after the meal was finished. Most had surmised that Emma had been caught out. She'd been cheating, and any other reason would be an unlikely one. The women all agreed that there was something about Emma that had given them all a feeling of unease for Paul. It seemed like their feelings had now been vindicated. A year later, the family gathered once more at Christine's for Christmas dinner. This time there were only 7 seated. Emma was missing. A huge row, a visit to the doctors for tests, and an immediate breakup had seen to that. And that was dinner at Christine's, and I'm sure that was a very awkward Christmas dinner. I'm hoping no one this year gets an awkward Christmas dinner like that. So, our next story is Nocturnal Upon St. Lucy's Day by John Platten that Simon Clark has kindly agreed to read for us. You're muted, Simon.
Thanks, Kathy. So, Nocturnal Upon St. Lucy's Day. Graham had never seen the point of poetry, but every 13th December, he took the frayed envelope from the shoebox in his wardrobe, reread its contents, and tried again to probe its meaning. The ambiguity defeated him. Why say an object is something else entirely and then waste unnecessary syllables pursuing the analogy? Her words troubled him, bringing back memories of that day, the day of joy, the day of despair. On balance, Graham thought, he had been in love with Lucy. Factors supporting this conclusion were appetite loss, insomnia caused by visualizing unlikely scenarios with the medical student from across the corridor, involuntary mutism in her presence. Factors contradicting this conclusion were lack of scientific criteria for defining love, the fact that Graham experienced similar feelings, even insomnia, in his physics classes. With her lank hair and John Lennon glasses, she was like a beetle with curves. Graham pictured her singing Lucy on the Wards with Patience and Sterile Fields Forever. It was bliss, that first embrace in the student kitchen. Graham had not been used to physical contact, growing up in a home where its only expression was a beating for laziness. When Lucy touched his elbow, Graham felt a tenderness that transformed his hereto functional existence. But this elation also provoked a moment of exuberance he regretted ever since. It was unwise for him in this, his first foray into juggling, to use tumblers. The crash was inevitable. The trajectory of the glass was not. Lucy's forehead covered a tiny percentage of the area available for landfall, but several shards ended up lodged there. Graham had never forgiven himself. Now the smell of spaghetti bolognese always took him back to the day that his love life froze, St. Lucy's Day, the day of promised light in the darkness. The only relic he had of her was the poem she slid under his door the following day. When Graham came in from the cold, his brother was studying it. George was staying the night as his village was cut off by the afternoon snowfall. Hey, George, that's personal. Give it here. Graham took Lucy's poem over to his far side armchair and reread it. One for Caesar, scores none at tennis. The second person sounds like sheep. The first, with alien, will gather at our place in some fab enchanted bliss when short, cute lady is mangled heap. Didn't think you liked crosswords. I don't. Multiple meanings aren't my thing. So if you dislike crosswords so much, what are you doing with these clues? It's just a poem I was given by a friend. Bit more than a friend, I'd say. What do you mean? Well, going by the clues, whoever's written this has made their feelings plain. It starts, I love you. What? Graham felt faint at the thought that the envelope he had treasured for years might contain a declaration of love. I could be wrong. I'd need a second look to make sure. Graham handed the letter over. Yes, look, one for Caesar. That's one in Roman numerals or I. Scores none at tennis. Well, that's love. What? I thought she was criticizing my sporting ability. It was my lack of coordination that ruined everything. Now then, the second person, that's you, sounds like sheep. You. I love you, you dark horse. How long have you had this letter? Graham did not hear the question as his mind raced to the second verse. What else does it say? You sure you want me to look? It sounds personal. Go on. Okay, me and alien, E.T. That gives us meet. At a bench, I don't know what that means, if that means anything to you though. It's a hidden word in fab enchanted bliss. We had a bench where we used to sit and chat between lectures. Okay, so when's this meeting? Must be in the last line. When short, cute lady is a mangled heap. It was an accident. I never meant, don't know what you're on about, mate. It's an anagram. A what? Surely you know what an anagram is. Jumbled letters. Give us a pen and paper. Ta. Right, now, a mangled heap means we need to rearrange the words short, cute lady is. George sat for several minutes, scribbling and crossing out. Nah, sorry, don't think I can help you. Can't make any sense of it. So she tells me she loves me. She wants to meet. We know where, but not when. Can I look? No worries. It's your love letter after all. Love letter. For years, it had been an impenetrable poem. For a few minutes, it had been crossword clues. Now it was a love letter. What if we abbreviate short to S, as in SW for shortwave radio? Multiple meanings, eh? Okay, that removes 4 letters. There's D, A, and Y. There, that gives us day. St. Lucy's Day. St. Lucy's Day, when's that? I'll just Google. It's today. Today, how do you know? Because I do. Look, today's the anniversary of the day that it all got so wonderful and all went wrong. And it's like our special day. Your special day, George grinned. You've had a lover with a special day in a special place without knowing it for years. Graham checked the time. 10 minutes till their time. 6, the time that was also a perfect number. It would be tight, but he could make it if he was quick. Compacted snow reduced friction. Every step was hazardous. Arriving just 2 minutes late, Graham turned a corner to see her by the bench. He called as he ran. Then he saw it was not her. His feet gave way just as the car approached. He regained consciousness in the hospital bed. He saw the doctor, her lank hair, her John Lennon glasses glinting beneath a forehead with slight discolorations where it had been impacted years ago by shards of glass. Hello, Graham, she smiled. What kept you?
Oh, that was a sweet one. Very good. Fantastic. So, our next story, where are we? Is The Secret of the Forbidden Pine Tree by Georgie Nickerson.
Thank you, Kathy. It began, as every day did, in Zulu, without Christmas. Jasper clutched onto the bag in his lap, trying not to glance at the lady who sat next to him at the back of the sleigh bus. She doesn't know, he told himself as winter's first bite prickled his sweaty brow. He rang the golden bell and waited for the sleigh driver to slow down before hopping off the platform. His shaky knees left him stumbling in the snow and begged him to turn around, to head home where Mum waited with a hot cup of cocoa. Mornin', Jasp, Barry said at the building's entrance, tipping his security hat. Jasper sent him the same squeamish smile he gave nurses bustling through the corridors. He stumbled into room 206, slammed the door shut and threw his bag on the floor. We need to talk, he croaked. Grandpa Albert stared at the bag next to his slippers, then up at Jasper. It's important to note that Albert hadn't spoken a word in 14 years, and even when he had, they were what wound him in Juliu's care home. Jasper sat in the chair next to his grandpa's, facing the snowy window. I found something, he said, unzipping his backpack. Underneath a floorboard in your old closet. Albert's crinkled eyes widened as Jasper carefully handed him the red tin box. With withered, veiny hands, his grandpa lifted the lid and let out what sounded like a baby's first laugh. He looked a lot less afraid than Jasper had been when he pulled out a card that read the forbidden words, Merry Christmas. After 8 decades, nobody knew why the holiday was banned. Grandpa Albert used to say it was during a time of masks, when soap was currency and a plague locked the world indoors. But even some stories were too outrageous for Jasper to believe. Last year, the contraband box would have been thrown in the fireplace to avoid trouble, but since Albert's diagnosis, Jasper had been finding ways to bring his grandpa's final days some meaning. Albert put the box down and shuffled across the room. He stopped at the calendar above his bed and pointed at tomorrow's date. It was circled in red and green, the 25th of December. That night, 3 lanterns made their way through the dark. "This better be good," Harvey yawned next to Jasper. "Your carrier pigeon arrived just as I fell asleep." "And it relieved itself all over my window," Charlotte added. Jasper led the Thompson twins deeper into Zulu forest, stopping at a short pine tree. He opened the tin box's lid and pulled out a silver ball attached to a piece of looped string. His friends fell back a step in horror. "You're going to get us all arrested with that thing," Harvey screeched. "I need your help," Jasper said. "It's for my grandpa." He didn't mean for his voice to shake at the end, but it was enough to thaw the Thompson twins. "I'm telling you," Charlotte said from the boulder she sat on, reading pages from the red tin. "This bearded man wasn't so jolly. Listen, you better watch out. You better not cry. Better not pout. These are threats." "I read that he took someone's heart and just gave it away," Harvey said whilst placing rocks around the tree, as stated in one of the texts. Jasper stepped back from the pine tree and raised his lantern to search for branches not sporting his painted tennis balls on string. "Christmas was about presents then?" he asked. "No," Charlotte said, searching the scriptures. "This lady said she doesn't care about the presents underneath her tree." Harvey's brows furrowed. "So what did she want for Christmas?" The tree was full, yet Jasper had the sense that something was missing. Charlotte looked up at the sun quilting the mountains in orange. "It's time." It had taken years to get Albert into the care home, but only 15 minutes to sneak him out. Harvey rubbed his hands together when they reached the day lounge of seniors doing puzzles and playing dominoes with their morning coffees. Charlotte looked nervous about letting her brother do what he did best, cause havoc. Harvey descended into the lounge, leaning down to whisper into each resident's ear, leaving mouths agape in his wake. Charlotte gave Jasper a push towards Albert's door and waited nearby, on watch for nurses. He burst into the room without knocking. "Take off your slippers," Jasper said to his grandpa as screams filtered into the room from outside. With Albert dressed for winter, Jasper led him down the corridor. Nobody paid notice as nurses scurried around after residents who sang and cheered and danced through the care home. "Santa's coming to town," one of them whooped, earning a chorus of hurrahs from other seniors. Harvey waited in the middle of the day lounge, eating a digestive with a smug smirk. He nodded to Charlotte, and she left to the exit, coming back with Barry a second later, who attempted to calm everyone down. The 3 children and Grandpa Albert slipped out the front door towards an awaiting husky-drawn sleigh. The dogs weaved through Zulu forest, pulling to a halt at a decked-out pine tree. Albert was the first one to his feet. The others watched him roam over to the tree and examine the silver decoration that was kept under a floorboard. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a yellow napkin cut into a wonky shape and pointed at the top of the tree. Jasper, being the tallest, placed the flimsy star as instructed. His grandpa's smile quivered and his eyes grew glassy. Clouds let loose today's first snowfall, and Charlotte jumped to guide Albert under a sheltered willow tree, but he put a hand on her shoulder. "No, my little elves," he said to the 3 stunned children. "Let it snow." And so, with a silver bauble and a damp napkin, Zulu found Christmas again.
Wonderful, love it. Dystopian. The kind of what happens to Christmas after the pandemic, who knows? Okay, so let's see what the next story we have. I think it's me next. So our next story is On with the New by Jeff Easman, who unfortunately couldn't make it. So I'm going to be reading that one out. So The moment I wake up, I say a little prayer for you is playing in my head. Its harmony soaring. I poke a tentative hand outside the covers, then immediately withdraw. A few more minutes to snuggle into the bed's sleepy warmth, to think of Jacqueline. Her brief posthumous letter. Sell the house, sell all the things bought with the money you made from that job you hated. Move on. Ending up here, a new build flat, a complete change of furniture, an early Grace and Perry vase bought expensively at auction, a Christmas present to myself, and left it in my will to our granddaughter. What remains from the proceeds of the sale in the bank? What remains of Jacqueline in my mind? I forced myself to get up, pull on my dressing gown, and go into the kitchen. As the kettle boils, I set the oven to warm, ready for the nut roast I prepared yesterday. The medicine I've been accustomed to ready on the table. The coffee percolating, a thick coating of frost outside. Another frosty day. Last January, Jacqueline bedridden in our old house towards the end. We twist and turn from birth through death, as spring does to winter. 'Tis inevitable, don't you think, my dear? I love winter, I blurted out from the bedside. I want it to last forever. She grinned, a mischievous grin that cracked open her face and rolled back the years, and sat up and reached over to tap me on the knee. You don't really, do you? You love winter for all it's out with the old, on with the new. Whereas for me, this time, it's... Sinking back into the pillows, her once blonde hair turned silver, spilling over her shrunken shoulders. Has to be acceptance. At my dressing table, I apply a little blush to my cheeks. The song returns. Forever and ever, you'll stay in my heart, and I will love you. I turn my head from left to right before the mirror. It'll do. Then a dab of La Vie est Belle under each wrist, its sweet, fruitful aroma, its undercurrent of patchouli. When my band split, Jacqueline went off to Greenham Common. I'd been on tour pretty much constantly from the late 70s up until then, so I couldn't complain, even if I had wanted to. Even when months became years. Timing could have been better, though. Peter, an unexpectedly difficult teenager. I tried to make the best of our first Christmas without her. Asked him if he'd like anything special. To be part of a normal family, he complained. And when I challenged him with what's normal, anything that you and her are not. I'll take that as a compliment then, I said, partly in jest, to his stony face. Come the new year, I shaved off my Mohican, took a job in telesales, which I was surprisingly good at. The things you'll do for your child. As Peter did for Marie. Gave her the freedom to go her own way when, after his wife left him, he may have wanted to keep his daughter close. Can I take some credit for that? My mobile is ringing. I pick it up. Marie, says the display. Just to let you know, her echoey voice, both distant and near, I'm running a bit late. My phone can't seem to locate your flat, so I'm having to work it out for myself. It's all right, no rush. I assume your father hasn't changed his mind. I tried to talk to him about it, but he went a bit weird on me. Something about a ghost at the feast, and I'd see. It's okay, Marie. I know what he meant. Well, I'm glad someone does. Anyway, I think I'm about 20 minutes walk away. Good. Looking forward to seeing you. Me too. It had been Marie's turn for Christmas with her mother, and mine at Peter's, toasting Jacqueline's memory in champagne, telling him my news, inviting him to lunch on New Year's Day to share it with Marie. The look on his face. Thank you for warning me, after a long pause. However, I think not. I need more time to take it in. Marie, though, he has kept his word, as I trusted he would, that she should find out for herself. Jacqueline, that late autumn night we first met. Challenging, inspiring, ready to change the world. Early morning explosion outside the Royal Albert Hall, flower bombs raining down inside. All may not be as it seems when buying online. But this dress, a Laura Ashley floral print from the 1970s, is everything I hoped it'd be when I saw it on the Oxfam website. A frisson of excitement as I lift it over my head and wriggle myself inside. Perfect fit. I twirl before the mirror. The dress looks its age, which is good. I run my hands down its length and sense a secondary shiver as though another ghostly hand were following mine. "Oh, Jacqueline." Her voice wells up inside me. "Closer, my dear. You are getting closer." "Yes, yes," I say. "And the dress?" Not what I would have chosen. However, I have to admit it rather suits you." The entries buzzer's fizzing blare. The screen shows Marie's wild smile beneath her beanie and its prominent Extinction Rebellion symbol. I press the switch to open the communal door. Quick check in the mirror. Final adjustments to the wig covering my shaven head, its auburn tresses flowing over my shoulders. It's never too late. Marie steps back when I open the door to the flat. A slight hesitation, curiosity perhaps, before she rushes forward and hugs me for what seems an age. Eventually, she lets go and takes a small step back. So like Jacqueline, our granddaughter. "Wow," she says, touching my dress, then hugs me again and whispers softly into my ear, "Happy New Year, Grandad. Happy New Year to you." So that was On with the New by Jeff Easman. Our next story is Christmas by Simon Clarke.
Thanks, Kathy. So before I start, this is a poem I wrote a wee while ago, but I've had the privilege in my time, just to prove it, I have played Father Christmas several times, but the very first time I did it was just in a small Norfolk village hall, and I just remembered the experience. And this is a poem about that experience. Once upon a time, you pretended to be Santa. Everyone knew who you were, adults laughing together, jokes, and what a carry on. Suddenly, everyone receded, leaving you in a snow-quiet bauble, you and the little girl at your knee, a softly hesitant voice asking, "Santa, can you make this work for me?" You solemnly started reading the instructions together. This would never happen again. Someone believing in you and seeing Santa as children do. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I've got next. So next we've got Lorna. Are you there?
Yes.
It's your story next. Fantastic. So we've got It's Not My Dress by Lorna Clarke. Did you want to read it, Lorna?
Yes. I hammer on the shop door and shout, "Let me out, let me out." But the security men have already passed along the mall. It's spooky in the partially lighted store. I see a reflection of someone moving behind me. But the store is empty. I've already checked. I start to shake. "What are you doing here?" I jump. "I'm behind you." I turn to see a mannequin wreathed in tinsel within inches of me. I'm sure it wasn't there a few minutes ago. It must be my imagination. "Congratulations," it says. "I've been here 5 years and you're the first person to be locked in. Where were you when the lights went down?" "In the changing room. I was trying on a dress and the zip stuck." "Are you still wearing it?" she asked. "Yes, I've tried to call security, but there's no reply. It's Christmas Eve and I'm supposed to be going to a party." "They won't walk past here again tonight," she says. "Why don't you just take the top of your body off? The dress will slip off then." "They do it to us. We never know which lower part we'll have after they've changed our outfits." "I can't take my body off. I'm not made that way. None of my parts are detachable." "Are you sure?" "Sometimes my screw needs a little oil, and then my top half moves. Let me try." I attempt to step away, but already have my back on the door. Her hands move slowly towards my shoulders, and she clamps her fingers on them. She rotates them, pulls me away from the door, and turns me until I'm looking out of the door. "You're not supposed to move your feet." "I can't help it." Her hands are hurting me. "Follow me." She lets me go, and climbs the static escalator, moving stiffly and slowly. I follow behind her. What is that doing here? A male mannequin's finger is pointing at me. It was in the changing room as lights went down, says my mannequin. Stuck in a dress. Thought we might be able to help it. He steps towards me. Hold her lower bits, he says. I see mannequins approaching from all directions, arms outstretched. Knowing they could tear me in half, I take a chance, run up the escalators to the toilets on the 3rd floor, and lock myself in a cubicle. I'm searching for the telephone number of security when the door opens. I turn on hands-free, just as an arm, surrounded in tinsel, jettisons itself over the door and grabs my leg. Others follow as the phone rings. Security? I'm locked in Bauer's store and I'm panicking, I say. We'll be right over. Security coming, mannequins murmur. Fingers release and arms fly back over the cubicle door. I open it to see a mass retreat. I run down the escalators and arrive at the front door at the same time as the security officer arrives. He lets me out and relocks the door. Funny, he says, looking at the store. I'm certain there was a mannequin just there when we walked past earlier. I don't reply.
Oh, wonderful. Love it, Lorna. Fantastic. Thank you for reading. Okay, so now we've got our last story, which I believe is Angel in the Snow by Catherine Hollingworth, and that's being read by Georgie.
Thank you, Kathy. Jim could see a young man lying motionless on the icy road. His eyes were closed and he appeared to be unconscious. Snowflakes fluttered around him like confetti. A crumpled motorbike lay beside him beneath the branches of a sturdy tree. After a few seconds, Jim began to realize that he was peering down at himself and that he was floating high above his body. He felt calm and untroubled as he called out into the snowy sky. "Mum, shall I come to you?" "I miss you, but it's not your time." Jim smiled as he recognized the soft voice. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he found that he had returned to his body. He felt his heartbeat quicken as he saw an angel looking down at him. Her golden hair was fringed with snowflakes, and ice crystals glistened on her eyelashes. She was wearing a white dress and had shimmery wings. The angel leant over him and blew into his mouth, her soft lips brushing his. Then she disappeared, and he heard the wailing siren of an ambulance. He groaned as a wave of pain washed over him. "You're going to be all right," said a paramedic as he inserted a needle into Jim's arm. In the next moment, he was above the earth, floating in a vivid blue sky among wispy clouds. When he woke up, he found himself lying in a hospital bed with a bandage around his head. A nurse approached him, looking concerned. "How are you this morning, Mr. Ashton?" she asked. "I'm okay, but have you seen an angel?" murmured Jim, glancing around the room. The nurse smiled warmly at him. "There are no celestial beings on this ward," she said, "although sometimes nurses are referred to as angels." "I saw one after the crash," said Jim. "She had flowing golden hair." "Well, the paramedic team who brought you here last night were all men," said the nurse, "and none of them have golden hair. I know that angels are often referred to as he in the scriptures, but I've never seen one in this town. I think that you must have been dreaming. Please try and get some rest." Jim sunk back into the pillows, feeling gutted. The angel had reminded him of his mum, who had died of cancer when he was only 8 years old. Throughout his childhood, he had imagined that she was an angel watching over him. His favorite song had been Angels, sung by Robbie Williams. He would never admit this to his mates, of course. They saw him as a cool guy and a rebel who would not allow himself to become too attached to anyone. Jim fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. Later, he woke up and saw his father sitting beside his bed. "You must try and drive more carefully, Jim," said Derek, stealing a nervous glance at his wife June before clearing his throat, as if to mask his concern. "Let's go," said June coldly. "We can see that Jim's all right, and the doctor told us not to tire him." Typical of my stepmother, thought Jim, with her peroxide blonde hair and manicured nails. June had proved herself to be an icy substitute for his mother. "It's all right, Dad," he said. "Please visit again tomorrow. It's good to see you." A little later, the nurse came back into his room. "You have another visitor," she said. Jim's eyes widened as the young woman entered the room. She looked angelic and had golden hair flowing around her shoulders. "Hello, I'm Grace," she said. "I hope that you're feeling better." She handed Jim a large box of chocolates. "You were at the crash," burst out Jim. "I saw your bike skid on the ice and crash into a tree," said Grace. "For a horrible moment, I thought that you were dead. You saved my life. But what happened to the angel wings?" Jim grinned cheekily. "I was on my way to a fancy dress Christmas party at the Robin Hood pub," said Grace. "That's why I was dressed as an angel. But it's strange, because I wasn't planning to take that route." She paused and smiled. "The snow had started to fall heavily," she said, "and I took the wrong turn and got lost. When I saw the accident, I dialed 999, but I could see that you weren't breathing, so I started CPR. Then the ambulance arrived, so after that I went home, and later on I rang the hospital to check how you were." "So you missed out on the party because of me?" said Jim. "Would you let me take you to another one?" "But I hardly know you," said Grace, blushing. "Well, it would be a good way to get acquainted then," said Jim, "unless you already have a partner." "No, I'm not with anyone," said Grace, "and I suppose I'd rather like that." "I hope to be out of here soon," said Jim. "And I know that you're holding a fancy dress party on New Year's Eve at my local pub. How about we go there together?" "That's a great idea," said Grace. "How would we dress up as?" "An angel and a pirate," said Jim. "What do you think?" "It's great. I love it," said Grace. "But I'll go now. I was warned not to overtire you." "Will you visit me again tomorrow?" asked Jim. "Of course. I can come in the evening," said Grace. "We can make plans for the party." After Grace left the ward, Jim sank back into the pillows and closed his eyes, pulling on the headphones. "Thank you for giving me an angel, Mum," he thought. "I can already tell that Grace is special and that you sent her to me." As he turned on the radio, Jim could hear Robbie Williams singing, "I'm loving angels instead," and he knew then that his mum was listening. Thank you, Catherine. That was a beautiful story. I hope I did it justice.
Lovely story. I thought it was a perfect one to tie up the end of this live stream with, because it was just so upbeat and so nice and heartwarming and perfectly Christmassy. So those are the last of our stories. So thank you everyone who's come to the live stream. Catherine, I hope you enjoyed your lovely rendition from Georgie with your story, and thank you everyone to submitting a story. This live stream will be kind of automatically uploaded, so if anyone didn't get a chance to view it, they should be able to view it anytime. So if you've got friends and family, they can do so then. If anyone isn't a member and is interested in joining, we have an online membership, which we do have some online members here, which are for those who perhaps don't live close enough but still want to kind of attend our meetings. And as you'll see on our website, that we do have a mixture of online and in-person meetings. These include things like talks and workshops, and we've recently done some writing sprints for NaNoWriMo. We've got some others planned in January. Or we've got a full membership. So this is if you live close enough and you're interested in coming to in-person meetings, COVID precautions willing. So an online membership is £18 for the season, and a full membership is £36. Alternatively, if you're not interested but you have a friend who is interested, we also do gift certificates, so you can gift a membership as well. And you will email you a nice little shiny gift certificate that you can print out, so you have something to give them. So thank you everyone for submitting your stories, and thank you everyone who read them, not only your own stories, but for volunteering for those who couldn't make it. And I think I'll just check the comments. Yeah. Catherine Hollingworth said that she enjoyed all the stories. I've got somebody who's Jay said these were all great. Well done, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas. And a good New Year.
Sorry, want to add a quick thank you to Kathy, I'm sure, from everyone for organising all of this.
Yes, well done, Georgie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for an incredible 2021 from Kathy and everyone of the committee. It's definitely been an upbeat thing during the current situation in the world. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're very, very welcome. And thank you, Georgie. Very, very nice of everyone. I do enjoy these because I do feel that it would be nice to have more stuff from members, and I really love hearing what everyone's working on. You know, because I feel like you talk to people and you find out, look, oh, I'm working on this and it sounds really interesting. A lot of the time I think, oh, can I please read some? What you're writing sounds amazing. So yeah, I love doing these sorts of things. I love kind of engaging with our members and giving them kind of opportunities like this. So anyway, so we will leave that here, and
okay.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Yes, thanks, Kathy. Nice to meet everyone. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone has a great Christmas.
Yes. Thank you then.